Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Brewing E-commerce. Um, Today, I have somebody with me who I so badly wish that if I had known her like 15 years or 20 years back in my life, my wife life would have been really different. I'm sure everybody watching and listening to this would feel the same because when we talk about differentiation in D2C and what kind of product you create to stand outside the market, this one doesn't get better, right? So, welcome, Radhika. I'm really excited to have you.
Thanks a lot for having me.
And we're looking forward for a very, very cool conversation. But before getting into that, Radhika, I'd like you to introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about the awesome, awesome product that you've created.
Sure. So this might be a long one. I hope you don't mind that
No,
because
not at all.
it's
We're all
quite
in here for the story, so go for it.
amazing. Because I did not have any connection with healthcare before, and like the startup that I'm doing now is entirely healthcare. So it will be interesting for you to know the journey. So see,
Absolutely.
I was born and raised in Delhi. Did my undergrad from here, from LSR, then went on to join Barclays for 4 years. I was totally a finance person at this point by the end of it because I left them as an AVP and I decided to go for my MBA at INSEAD, which is a school between France and Singapore. Did both campuses there. Um, had an amazing time, but I also had a student loan. So decided to not go into entrepreneurship directly, which is something that I really wanted to do, but then instead join consulting for about 2 years. Now, consulting is actually where I got exposure to healthcare for the first time because I was consulting with a lot of healthcare clients. And, there were two things that I realized about the space. First was that if you're a startup that actually has a product that works and is solving a real problem, it can have a great impact on people's mind, people's health, life, etc. The second thing was that, thinking from a business perspective, the space in itself is huge in the sense that, everybody, and especially given COVID and how mindsets have changed since then, people have really been starting to give attention to their health. And hence, that is an industry that is super robust in a way, is what I felt. So, entrepreneurship was something that was always on my mind, but then, healthcare started becoming an interest for me. However, when I started my first full time startup, it was still a finance related one because it was not my idea at this point. It was my previous co founder's idea. And I was like, oh, that this idea makes a lot of sense. So let's go into that. But then for that one, I moved to London for it was a fintech. And few months that was also VC invested. So a few months into it, I realized that first thing was that I was actually not getting the satisfaction that I wanted from that full-time startup that I was doing. And then the second thing
Hmm.
was that I really felt that I want to come back to the Indian market because I could see a startup is a long-term commitment and I wanted to
Yeah.
be in a space that is flourishing, growing, people, it's super dynamic. And India felt like the right place for me to do that, to get into that 5 to 10 year commitment. So I actually decided to cut my losses with that one in terms of time, although it was a great experience for me, and moved back to India. So
Hmm.
February 2023 is when I moved back.
Hmm.
And the first thing that I did on the first day was to hire interns, and I asked them to set up interviews with three types of people. First, let's say active healthcare users. So, the
Okay.
people who track their glucose, who take a lot of multivitamins, who know what their body needs, are just basically a good consumer set for healthcare. The second
Hmm.
thing was healthcare professionals, so talk about doctors, nurses. And then the third thing was people in the industry. So, for example, I spoke with a few founders who have a healthcare startup. I spoke with somebody who manufactured syringes. Like this,
Hmm.
between February and March, I had conducted over 50 interviews. And as a result of those, the conclusions that I was drawing from them, also had surveyed over 250 people, just trying to understand where in the Indian market is there a gap when it comes to healthcare.
Sure. Hmm.
Now, from this, there was this one theme that was coming out quite strongly, which was that if you look at nutraceuticals, which basically means nutritional pharmacy, uh, putting it very simply, think about dietary supplements as the main nutraceutical space. If you look at the big brands that are there in India, right? So, for example, Wellbeing Nutrition is doing great. Plix, Power Gummies, all these guys have, they're doing a great job, but their focus, if you look at it, has been on what I now call traditional health issues, like
Hmm.
hair, skin, beauty is obviously one of them, obesity. But what about vices is what was the theme that was coming out in my interviews. What about somebody who smokes? What about somebody who drinks? They also face a lot of issues as a result of these
Yeah.
habits or these vices that they have.
Yeah.
And I realized that, because there was this thing that was coming from a few interviews that, but don't you think that your narrative should be that people should stop doing these things? But then
Mm.
if you think about it, I mean, I spoke with the doctors in this interview set. They said that, if a smoker comes to us and says that, okay, they're having cough and cold, we always give them a medicine, right? Because
Yeah, yeah,
healthcare
yeah.
is
Of
something
course.
that
Of course.
everybody deserves.
Yeah.
They would
Yeah.
tell them that, okay, maybe try to cut down on it. It will be better for your health, but they still
Right.
deserve healthcare. This was my motto, that, I want to develop a brand that focuses on vices, people,
Hmm.
something that people generally think that we should not be supporting people on. But my approach is that everybody deserves healthcare. Hence, if there is an impact of this vice on their body, they still deserve
Right.
those nutraceuticals, those supplements that can sustain, in a way, their normal functioning as a human being. So
Mm.
this is where GetSetPop, the idea for GetSetPop came in. Now, this is where I'm introducing the brand for the first time. So, see, GetSetPop is, again, a brand that focuses on nutraceuticals for your vices. We are starting from just one aspect of it, which is hangovers, wherein what we have are three products that, again, the main objective is for you to not get a hangover altogether. However, let's say our few years down the line objective is to become this all encompassing brand that just has nutraceuticals for all types of vices. For example, our next product, which we have already started developing, is for smokers, for their beauty in this case, because I spoke with a lot of female smokers, which is on the rise in India. And, got a lot of feedback that, okay, people are having their nails brittle, etc., etc. So this is the next product that we are developing. However, right now we have three products. First are party pills. Uh, Party pills are things that you take before drinking. So they are, in a way, a direct competition to Himalaya Party Smart. They're Ayurvedic in the sense they're entirely herbs based. The second one is party strips. Now, these are strips that you place on your tongue and they dissolve. These you take after drinking, and they are vitamins and herbs based. So, for example, they have ginger extract, but they also have vitamin B12 and things like that. And the third, which is a new product to the Indian market, are patches. Now, these are, if you have heard of nicotine patches, they work on the same technology, but here what we are delivering are just vitamins. So that, again, you do not get a hangover the next day, and these can be taken at any point during drinking. Um, these are the three products, super differentiated in terms of, obviously the timing of consumption, and also in a way their potency, in the sense that the pills are the ones that you take if you're having more than six drinks, versus strips are something that you take between 4 to 6 drinks, and patches are for the lower end, for people who have, let's say, up to 4 drinks. Yeah, and this is the entire idea behind Get Set Pop. I hope I was quick enough.
This is blown away. So now everybody watching would have understood what I meant. That if this kind of product was available a few years back, the younger part of my life would have been very different. Because I'm sure, like all of us, in a lot of us, in fact, in that way, always woke up the next day morning and did the googling about it, how to cure a hangover, and you have like right from black coffee to orange juice to banana to I don't know what all things people would have even tried. And trust me, I'm not getting into what all have I tried, uh, but nothing really ended up working, right?
Yeah.
So, Radhika, this is like the niches of the niche, right? It is so directed. I think your consumer, your messaging, your product, just it can't be more funneled down.
Hmm.
And and I understand that having that kind of target takes a lot for it to reach there, right? You
Right.
kind of start by what you exactly said. You did the marketing research, you kind of figured it out, and then you tapered it down here. So this is phenomenal, and I see a lot of D2C brands kind of not able to achieve something like this. um, Everybody tries to go for, yes, a bigger TAM in that perspective, but then while doing that, if you're early stage, then the competition and all the other things kind of get very missed. So kudos to you on actually nailing that. And I'm sure, I would say at least 50% of the people watching this would agree on the problem statement, right? So everybody has that problem. um what what are the early feedback? What are people really telling you? Is it working, not working? Is there some kind of best case scenario for it to work? Because at the end, it's all about people being able to get value from the product.
Yeah, of course. So I'm okay. So for this, let me first tell you my story. Okay. Because this is when I thought that, okay, I finally have landed. This moment is when I thought finally have landed a product that actually works. Okay. So I was doing the formulations, right, with the manufacturing team for different products. And this is the story of me testing out the final formulation for the pills. Um, so I had taken a 2-day vacation with my friends at that time. And I was actually the youngest there. The oldest person was 37, 36 that time. Okay, it's earlier this year. And we started the night with 3 LIITs, because we were like, all right, today we're going to test this product out to its extremes.
All
Three
right, I
LIITs.
love the way you say it. It wasn't like party. It was just testing the product. Okay, I like where it's getting there. Okay,
It gave us the motivation. So
great.
3 LIITs we start with. We then go on to have 2 whiskey shots each. Then we asked for Bailey's. They got us some, they heard it wrong or something. They got us 2 shots that were something, I don't even know what the liquor was, but we were
Yeah,
like, all right, let's go ahead with that. I think it was 11 p.m. at this point. We were drinking till 3 a.m. I do not even remember exactly what all we had. We had a lot of cocktails, mixed it, aerated drinks, and you name it.
yeah,
Next morning, we wake up and we go for breakfast. And we are at the breakfast table. And we had a moment and we were like, wait a second. Weren't we supposed to get a hangover today, given how
nice.
much we had last night? None of us even had a hint of a hangover, in spite of not sleeping enough. We were not feeling tired at
Yeah,
all. No
wow,
headache, nothing. Basically, we were functioning as normal human beings. And that is when I thought that finally we are sitting on a product that actually works.
that
Now,
is
the
awesome.
initial feedback has been on exact same lines for the pills. As I said earlier, we define it as for pro drinkers, so 6 drinks and above. Till now, not a single person has come back and said that we got a hangover. So it's working
That's
that well.
impressive. Yeah,
The strips as well. Although we claim 4 to 6 drinks, but people have tried it on much more, and still the feedback has been the same. With patches, I'll be honest here. There's a lot of risk as to where does a person put the patch, because it's something that's transdermal, right? So if they,
right.
for it, by mistake, put it on a place that has hair, it will not do
Mm,
its full job. So
sure.
till now, the feedback as such has been good. However,
Mhm.
my worry is that once people start trusting it and goes to,
Yeah,
like, let's say 6 or 8 drinks,
yeah,
what happens in that case? That is something that I'm still figuring out, to be honest.
yeah,
um,
yeah,
but it's such a cool product because we customize it that
yeah. Yeah, but
that
that's fair, right? That's how it happens, right? Like sometimes you take aspirin or Disprin, right? Or any other ibuprofen, whatever.
that's
Sometimes it works and doesn't work, and then the combination of all the things. There's so much in the body that's going, that kind of depends. And the good thing about you, if it works, people will know.
yeah.
If it doesn't work, people will not remember. I think that's all right in that way. Okay, that's impressive. So I can't imagine a job, Radhika. Just get up in the morning and tell everybody at home, hey, I'm going to work, and you reach office and they're like, hey, let's test the product out today, right? That's going to be an exciting day to
I don't
work.
have a single drink without having my products anymore. And I've been hangover free for the past 6 months.
Yeah, but that's for full disclosure. Super great. That's impressive. Um, I would assume that your go-to market for the kind of product that you're offering is going to be very creative and very different from the traditional space, right? Like one of our customers, Bombay Shaving, right? And Shantanu is like the OG there. The way he uses the word, and he's out in the streets telling people about the Sensi razor, and that's an amazing founder standing up himself and telling about the product story. I'd love to take a peek from you on the way cool your product is. How are you thinking about those things in your space?
Yeah. You said it exactly right that we cannot replicate a lot of the approaches that a typical D2C brand takes. And I'll explain to you the reason for that. See, alcohol in India is still one of the very few products that is primarily consumed offline. Okay. Think about consumed and purchased, sorry, offline. So think about groceries, for example, right? For
Hmm.
the longest time, it was something that was primarily offline, but COVID kind of pushed us to move it online.
True. Yeah.
Clothing was long back offline,
Hmm.
but it has
Hmm.
long been now online. But
Sure.
liquor, still, there, I think it's just Kolkata at this point and few other cities that have online delivery of liquor that is allowed, legal.
Okay.
Elsewhere, none of the cities are allowed to do that. So hence the
Oh.
purchasing decision for alcohol happens at a liquor store, happens at a bar, happens at a wedding, for example. It does
Hmm.
not happen online. What that means
Fair.
for us is that we cannot have, what other brands do, which is that you
Sure.
spend on your marketing and you kind of get
Yeah.
your people, because
True.
nobody's going to
Yeah.
think of buying a hangover product when they're, I don't know, scrolling their Instagram. They're going to think about buying that product when they're having their second drink and they think, oh, is that going to give me a headache then tomorrow? Let me just purchase something that will not give me a headache
Hmm.
tomorrow. So
Hmm.
for us, quick commerce is super important. For us, being in these offline spaces is super
Hmm.
important for you to be able to buy a get set pot product from the same liquor store, from the bar that you are purchasing your alcohol from, is
Hmm.
what our target and our go to market is at this point. See, honestly, lots to be tested out,
Of
but
course.
then till now the feedback has been the most promising, because now I have set up a few stalls myself, literally gone out and spoken with people, explained the science behind these products, which is something I'm
Yeah.
super excited and passionate about.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
the feedback or the most sales, to be honest, looking at the numbers, most sales have only come when there's a bar right next to where I am standing.
Cool.
Not
Cool.
come when the next stall to me, for example, is a jewelry stall.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
when I'm
Yeah.
standing next to a bar or liquor store.
Indeed.
So
Indeed.
so that is
But there's a lot of user education, I think, which will need to go. That is something that you can supplement with the online channels, etc. But at the end, you're absolutely right. It is the perfect thing that you get at the till while checking out in the
yeah,
supermarkets. If I'm taking a bottle of liquor, then can I also take this? And
precisely.
that hand in hand. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's super. Okay.
Mhm.
So two things, Radhika. One is if you're hiring interns in your company to test your product, please call me. And and I'm sure a lot of guys listening to this would love to test out the product. So that's one. Because again, it's just so cool, and there's nothing available like that. I remember being in the US and taking those caffeine shots on red eye lights, and you wake up in the morning and do the meetings and stuff like that. So this is that niche and pretty cool. Um, Now, in the interest of time, I would like to ask you about you mentioned you have a product which is working, right? You see those early results, etc. you kind of understand your positioning in the market, where you have to blend on offline and
Sure.
online, etc. But going forward, I'd like to take your peek on how would you, in a such niche segment, like to grow your business.
Yeah.
This is a little different question, because I hear this from a lot of founders, and there's a constant debate on bootstrapping, growth, funding, investments, and either angel investments or VC investments. Given that you have that background, you've experienced that world as well, would you want to build this in a slower growth, profitable bootstrap kind of a way? Would you, because, or would you want to go for some funding, because your product is definitely which will have a need, right? So there's no dearth in the market. How do you think about it, because profitability is the biggest buzzword in D2C at the moment?
That's exactly what I was gonna say. Um, that I don't think that a business can even be VC investable anymore without being profitable. So um, I do feel that I do want to go on that profitability path for sure. When it
Hmm.
comes to the funding aspect of it, you know, I feel that at least at this point, the stage that we are at, there is a need for us to experiment, a need for us to, figure out, as we were discussing, the channel, the go to market, etc. Um, I do sometimes feel that while, VC money is amazing when it comes to, once you have figured that out, that right channel, those you've answered those basic questions, then it can lead to acceleration that you potentially would not be able to on a bootstrap budget. Um, so ask me this question in 3 months.
No, no, absolutely.
Once we are
Yeah,
done with the experimentation, we
yeah,
have, figured out our first customers,
yeah,
and that is when, I would actually want to think that, okay, what is the next step? Because right
yeah.
now, all I've done is I've put my head down and just tried answering those questions, and which is what I'm doing now on my own,
Sure. Yeah.
with the support of a lot of founders, right? Because like this community is great.
Mm.
Like for example, the way we met, and like it's amazing. The event that you guys hosted, for example, I met a lot of interesting people. I've met with
Yeah.
three of them post that event.
Oh,
Out
nice.
of
That's
yeah,
very good. And that serves the purpose. That is what it was
exactly.
for. To Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So the founder community is great. So you don't necessarily need, at this point at least, the money. Maybe what you need is the minds. And
yeah.
so in that case, you know, ask me that question in 3 months.
No, I will absolutely. And the idea was because I was super impressed by what you built. Right. I was waiting not to say this, but let me tell everybody that, guys, I've tested it out. It works. Okay. But it was very nice. That's why I wanted to bring you to the podcast, share your story, etc. And because the whole way we like you, we definitely going to bring you back to tell us how the product evolved and how the whole thing went in. So that's good. Last thing before I
Started
let you go.
inviting myself right now.
Yes, you did a great job at it. Like I had to force you to add me as an intern in your team, right? So we'll figure next time in Delhi. That's what I'll do. uh Last thing before I let you go is, you have to tell us something about yourself that you've never told anyone before.
Oh wow. That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Wanted to give you something tougher than what can crack, the hangover. So yeah, you called for it. Let's put it that way.
That I have not told anyone. I think it has to be a drinking story in my case, right? That's
Okay.
the only thing that makes sense. Or a hangover story. Oh my God. Okay, I'll tell you a hangover
Okay.
story.
Sure.
Um, so this was during INSEAD.
Okay.
Uh, I obviously we were drinking a lot, and there was a seminar that I just had to go to. And the speaker at that seminar, was coincidentally speaking with the previous day, and I shared an anecdote with her, and she mentioned it in that event at that seminar.
Mm. Cool.
And she took my name, I had my head down. I was so hungover that I had my head down, and she asked me a question, follow up question on it. I had not spoken that day since the morning because again I
Okay.
was hungover. I had like rushed to the seminar. It was an 8:30 a.m. seminar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the moment I started speaking, my voice was something that was completely different from my general voices because it was gone. I was I was hungover. I don't know if it was a hangover or the fact that we were talking loud at the place last night. I don't know what it was, but it came out completely different, and everybody looked at me because they were like, "Who is speaking? This does not sound like Radhika." And the entire event like just cracked into laughter because they could see from my face that I was
That
not
is me.
expecting it, that I was extremely hungover, that potentially still drunk from last night. And, I have a few more of these,
Yeah.
hence
Yeah, but
also this
you don't
reason.
realize that's a nice story. But what you don't realize what you've done is you've given a amazing before your product and after your product, right? That's what a founder can just nicely summarize. So well done on that, Radhika. Great job. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely chatting with you. It's a really interesting product. It's a need in the market. We wish you all the best, and
Thanks a lot.
looking forward to catching up with you soon to know all the updates in the exciting space you're building.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. This was super fun. Can't wait for the
Good,
next one.
absolutely. Let's block in a date already. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you.